Hey everybody, today we're going to take a look at the last time each state was competitive on a presidential level. We're going to say that's under 5%. It doesn't matter who won, we're just trying to find out the last time these states had a narrow margin. Some of them have done it recently and frequently. Others have got to go back many, many decades. So I've got 8 tiers of shading here. In the end, this should help you visualize where the competitive states are, and also the same for the droughts. So for this, we're not going to do it alphabetically. We're going to do it chronologically, and we're going to start with the most recent. So for 2024, we had several battleground states that had competitive margins. Those are going to be the purple states of Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. Those are the ones that everybody's familiar with. But on top of that, also coming in under 5% is going to be Minnesota and New Hampshire. The last two were won by Harris while Trump won the rest. So we did have 9 competitive states in the most recent election. Next, we're going to go back 4 more years to 2020. Here we've got 2 more states to add that were under 5%. First is going to be in the Southwest. It's Arizona. Then in the Southeast, we've got Florida. This used to be the perennial swing state, but at this point, it does seem a little surprising that just back in 2020, this was actually a competitive state. After that, we're going to shade these by decade, and we're going to go back to the 2010s. First, if we start in 2016, we've got another couple of states. The first one also might be a surprise in the other direction. It's going to be Colorado. This was won by Hillary, and it was technically under 5%. It was 4.9. Just like Florida, it might be a little difficult to imagine this state being kind of competitive just 8 years ago. The other state we've got coming in under 5% is going to be in the northeast corner. It's Maine, and this is going to be for the state at large. One more notable factor in some of these elections, including 2016, there was a larger third-party presence on the ballot that was going to be led by Gary Johnson, the Libertarian. It could be a factor which led some of these states to have a narrower margin. Next, we're going to go back 4 more years. We've got 2012. Here we've got 2 more states that most recently came in under 5%. First, we've got the Buckeye State. It's Ohio. This was won by Barack Obama on his second run, but it was not by a convincing margin. It was under 5%. Since then, we know that state has moved pretty far to the right. Then we've also got Virginia. This was also won by Obama. Now we're going to go to a new decade and a new tier. We've got the 2000s, and we're going to start in 2008. We've got 3 states to add this time, and this was during Obama's first win. First up, we've got Montana. Obama did well enough that this state actually got under 5 points, even though it was won by McCain. Then you've got another state that used to be a premium bellwether. It's Missouri. It was extremely close. It was won by McCain. But 2008 was the last time it was truly competitive. The last state you've got is Indiana. This was narrowly captured by Obama. Since then, it's gotten super red. Next, we're going to go back to 2004. We've got another 3 states to add. First is going to be in the Southwest. It's New Mexico. This was actually narrowly carried by Bush over Kerry. Then in the Pacific Northwest, it's Oregon. There was a point where this was considered a competitive state, and 2004 was the last time it could be categorized as such. The last state in this category is going to be Iowa. It was narrowly captured by Bush, easily, way under a 5% margin. If we go back 4 more years to the super competitive election of 2000, this time we've got just 1 state to add, and it's going to be Al Gore's home state of Tennessee. He did not win it. It was won by Bush, but it was definitely a competitive margin by about 3.9%. Next, we're going to have to go back to the 1990s. In 1996, we've got 3 states that clocked in under 5%. First, it's South Dakota. Then it's Kentucky. Then at just under 5%, at about 4.9, it's Texas. Kentucky supported Bill Clinton, while the other 2 states supported Bob Dole. Now we're going to go back to the early 90s. 1992, Bill Clinton's first run. We've got 2 more states. First, it's New Jersey. The other state a little bit under 5% is in the South. It's Louisiana. Back in the 1980s, in 88, this time we've got 6 states that had competitive races. First, on the West Coast, it's California. Then we're going to go east, and we've got Illinois. Then it's West Virginia. In the Northeast, it's Vermont, New York, and Maryland. Next, back in 1984, this was the Ronald Reagan landslide over Walter Mondale. And we've got 2 blue states this time in the Northeast, Rhode Island and Massachusetts, both won by Reagan and both under 5% margins. Next, we're going to go back to 1980, and we've got another 6 states this time. Let's go through them. We've got some southern states. We've got Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, and South Carolina. We've got a couple of blue states as well. They're not at all near each other, but it's going to be Hawaii and Delaware. A lot of competition in that election. That's the last time those 6 states were under 5%. We go back to 1976. We've got 2 more states. One of them we think of as very red. The other we think of as very blue. But in that year, they were both competitive. First, it's Washington, and then it's Oklahoma. Both of those states supported Gerald Ford over Walter Mondale. But Washington actually voted to the right of Oklahoma. That seems totally unthinkable compared to today's politics. Now, after 1976, we've got to skip an election until we get a new state. We're going to go back to 1968. And the lucky state this time is going to be Alaska. They supported Richard Nixon over Hubert Humphrey by about 2.6. And that was the last time the last frontier had any serious competition. Next, we're going to go back to 1964. This was the Lyndon Johnson landslide over Barry Goldwater. Johnson won almost all the states, but the state that had the smallest margin in his favor was Idaho. It's a very red state, but 1964, when it was a 1.8% margin, was the last time it was under 5%. Now we've got to skip another 16 years. We've got to go back to 1948 to get a new state. This time we've got two of them, and they voted for opposite candidates. First, we've got Wyoming. This state narrowly voted for Harry Truman, while on the East Coast in Connecticut, this state supported Thomas Dewey. But the thing they have in common is this was the most recent time it was under 5%. To get another new state, we're going to have to go back more than 2 decades. The year is going to be 1924. The state is going to be North Dakota, and by about a 2.5-point margin, they supported Calvin Coolidge. Ever since then, the margins have been over 5%. We've got 3 states left that have had a long drought since they've been competitive, but the next year we're going to go back to is 1912. The state this time is going to be Utah. This was a pretty big landslide year for Democrat Woodrow Wilson, but in 1912, Utah actually supported Republican William Howard Taft. It managed to just dip down under 5% at 4.9, but that's within the parameters of this video, and 1912 is going to be it for Utah. 2 more states. Next, we're going to go back 1 more election to 1908, and the state with the second longest drought is Nebraska. This state, by about a 1.5-point margin, supported William Jennings Bryan instead of William Howard Taft. Either way, it was a very competitive race, and that's the last time it happened in the Cornhusker state. Finally, we've got 1 state left, and you can see it right there. It's Kansas. For this, we're going to dip back into the 1800s, but just barely. It's going to be 1896. And this state, again, supported Democrat William Jennings Bryan over Republican William McKinley. The margin was about 3.7%. And Kansas, which is known for its long droughts, especially for electing a Democrat to the U.S. Senate, they've got another extremely long one here in terms of a competitive presidential election. However, back in 1896, it was a battle for Kansas, and that started the longest active drought of any state having a competitive election under 5% for president. And that's it. That's the entire map going all the way back to the 1800s. Some of these states had several elections where they were at about 5 to 6%. But this is how the map looks if you're looking to keep it under 5%. There's no telling when some of these streaks are going to end. But on some of these states that you have to go back more than 80 years, I think it's going to be a huge deal when that finally happens. Those states are not really going to get any attention for president, unless maybe you're talking about Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. But for the states as a whole, it could be a long time before we see anything under 5%. At some point, I would think you're going to get some competition there. But once you get over 100 years, I don't think there's any shame in having some serious doubts on when that might be. This was pretty fascinating to go back and take a look at these competitive races. So let me know in the comments. What do you think about these states that have had recent competitive elections and the others that have had many, many decades without one? And which of these long droughts do you think is going to end next? And which state do you think is going to keep its margins over 5% for many decades from now? Let me know what stands out to you down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.